So this is the clearing diagnostics process. This is basically, we've mapped out over the last decade, we've mapped out all the core things, not all, it's actually almost everything that is something we've figured out is on this paper or is referenced to this paper in some way. But basically what I did was I organized and culminated all the core clearings that can potentially trap people that seem to come up over and over again. So you can do any topic and that is locking you down, and you start at the left side and you work your way to the right side. And by time you get to the right side, and to do this whole thing could take 45 minutes, maybe an hour. You get better at it the more you do this, but like you can completely exit almost any construct that this reality can throw at you. So these are the core clearings, and almost everything is represented somewhere in this. And we teach this in Outcreating, and in Be Your Brilliance, we refine it. But there's a topic, there's a column here around agreements and bindings. And there's two things that I want to point out to you. Let me see if I can zoom in more here. And that is, as you're moving along through life, you're going to find that there are some things that you go to clear, like you can tell, like I'm in a construct, I'm in something. You can feel you're being constrained, you're being messed with in some way, you're in something. And once you get the hang of this clearing thing, you'll automatically keep looking for a way out. And I'll tell you that once you get it, that all of the stuff that limits you is a construct, and all you have to do is find the way to get out, and you're out. And I've not found an exception to that yet, or it's some rare body things that we have not yet found a way out, but we're getting really close. It's like all you got to do is find the way to do it, and bam, you're out of it. So as you will naturally start to feel into the constructs of things. You'll go, oh, I feel that. Like it feels, and your infinite being, even though your brain won't understand what you're doing, you'll start trying different things to dismantle that construct. And the further along you go, the faster you get at it and the easier it gets, because you get more tools. That's what we do in Outcreating, is teach you the tools that other people have learned that can allow you to dig out faster. And that's what these are the tools. But there's two that I want to point you to. Is you'll feel into this construct, and there's one of two feelings that you're going to feel. One is hopeless. You feel like, oh man, this is hopeless. This is never going to clear. Okay. The key thing here is the feeling of hopelessness. Hopelessness means what I call tangled agreements. And it's these three blocks here, these two, and this third one. So anything that feels hopeless, you just clear these three blocks, and that hopelessness goes away, and that construct goes away. Hopeless is simply these three things lumped together. That's it. And it could be just something from one of those three boxes. But if you clear all three of these boxes, and we'll do that today, it just, hopelessness is gone, and that situation shifts. So hopeless is a key indicator. Anytime you feel hopeless about anything, and the reason I'm going to keep bashing this in, I want your brain to get an imprint for hopeless equals a certain kind of agreement that when I clear it, hopelessness goes away. Hopeless simply is the frequency of these kinds of agreements. When you have binds, or when you have oaths, vows, commitments, communities, fealties, swearings, promises, agreements, all these things here, it simply is an indicator that you have these kinds of agreements, what I call tangled agreements, and they feel hopeless. So hopeless equals those. You clear those, hopeless be gone, and it shifts because you're no longer trapped hopelessly. The third one, or the second one, I should say, I'm going to zoom in here, plus, is impossible. Is if you feel that something is impossible. So there's some things you're like, oh, I want to change this. And it's like, oh, that's hopeless. I'm never going to change that. You just clear the other one. You tap into other things and you're like, oh, this is impossible. This is never going to change. Impossible simply means a secured agreement, or what I call a third-party agreement. And I'll explain it briefly, and we'll run this clearing. So these are the two things. So allow yourself to perceive all of the stuff that around the walk-in stuff that you're trying to change, all the constructs around the walk-in things that you're trying to change that feel impossible to change. Okay? And some of those are for you, some of those are for this planet, some of those could be for the universe, depending on what level you're playing at. And we'll clear all of those. Okay, so that's simply, it simply is telling you whenever you feel impossible that it's a secured agreement. That's it. The frequency of impossible equals secured agreement. You run secured agreement, which is a simple process that takes, I don't know, 6 minutes, 8 minutes. Gone. Not impossible. It's not impossible. It's actually just gone. Okay. So impossible and hopeless. Anytime somebody comes to me and they're like, oh, this is impossible to change, I'm like, yeah. And they're like, what do you mean? Yeah. You just told me what it is. You just told me what's locking it in place. Anybody who comes to me and says, oh, this is impossible to change, I'm like, yeah. They're like, what do you mean? Why are you happy about it being impossible? Because that I know you've just given me the answer to how to clear it. So you want to cue in on impossible and you want to cue in on hopeless, because they're indicators that I don't know of anything else that creates that. Like anytime I get hopeless, I clear this, it's just gone. I'm not hopeless anymore. I feel empowered. I feel things changing, and it's not the same anymore.